Hello, hello. My name is Andree, and welcome to this Border0 demo. Today, we're going to talk about making internal web applications available to your employees without the need for VPNs. So, why would you want to do that? Well, perhaps you have internal web applications. Could be anything running in a private VPC in Amazon or Google, in a private data center in your company, or perhaps you have IoT devices that are all over various customer sites that you can normally only access using VPNs. For various use cases, maybe you don't want to use a VPN. It can be a bit of a pain to use at times, or maybe the licenses are getting out of hand. In this demo, we'll show you an alternative way of accessing these resources while still having the same sense of security. They're still running in private VPCs, but it's a lot easier to use. So I have two quick demos to show you how to get started. Pretty easy. So to start, I'll pull up my CLI, and I'm going to create a new Border0 socket, a service of type HTTP, and I'm calling it my internal app. So now I've created a simple Border0 service, and I'm going to hook it up, basically saying, hey, connect my internal app to the Border0 cloud and start a little HTTP server, right? And this is a built-in HTTP server. It makes it very easy to get going. So let's take a look. I'm going to open this up, and you can see that it's asking me for authentication. One of the things to note here is that you can see that we've applied a default policy to that. We'll take a look at that in a bit. So I'm going to log in now. Border0.com is the one that's allowed. And it's like, hey, ta-da, it's working. You're now seeing the internal built-in web server. Okay, that's kind of cute. Great to get started. But maybe you want to do something more useful. Maybe there are certain files that you want to share. So in this case, I'm connecting to the same internal app again. But instead of using the internal sort of demo page, I'm using this temp folder in which I have a bunch of files that I'd like to make available. So now you can see file 1, 2, 3. So that's a very easy way to basically, list a bunch of directories or serve up some static HTML content. Okay, so that's a pretty easy way to get going and hopefully show you how it works. Now let's take a look at a maybe somewhat more interesting use case. Let's think of an example where I have an internal web app that I called orders.internal.com. This orders.internal.com, if we take a look at where that runs and I ping it, runs on a private IP address, 192.168.12.109. That's what we call RFC 1918 address. That's not routable over the internet. So normally you would have to be either on the same network or on the VPN. So now let's take a look at how I'm going to make this resource available to anyone that is authenticated and authorized, but they don't need to be on the VPN. So I'll start with creating a new service called internal orders, basically. You can see the same default policy is applied, and we'll take a look at that policy in a bit. And now I'm going to hook it up and connect it to the Border0 cloud, and basically saying, hey, all the requests that come in for this service, pass it on to that IP address, 192.168.12.109, port 443, and make it available. So let's take a look. I'm going to open a new tab here, type this in. This is the URL, and says, hey, okay, please authenticate. Okay, authenticate. And I'm authenticated as Andree, and now you can see that using this public URL, I am now able to access it, and so would you if you were authorized. So you could see, and how do you know who is authorized? So I'll go back. You can here see this particular service that I just created, and you can see the policy tab. So if I click on that, you can see all the policies that are applied. You can see in this case, there's only one policy applied, which is the default organization-wide policy. And you can see that a few different sections, who, where, and when. And in this particular case, you can see everyone that authenticates it with an email address that ends in border0.com, or particularly this one specific email address, contractor@gmail.com. There are other things we can do. I won't go into too much detail here. But you can see there is a rich set of rules that you can add to a policy and filter out who has access to it. Now, the other thing I can do is go back to this socket. You can see exactly who accessed this particular resource. So who accessed it, from where, when, In this case, you could see me because I just accessed it. I can kill this session. If I then refresh it, you can see I get kicked out. So pretty powerful stuff, right? So in this demo, we saw how easy it is to basically make HTTP or web apps available without the need for VPNs. It doesn't matter where they run. They can run behind various layers of NATs and very strict firewalls. We can still make them available. The big advantage is you don't need to use a VPN. For the end user, it just feels as if they're browsing to any other website. They just happen to get a quick authentication page, which they need to authenticate themselves. And if they are allowed, authorized to let in, then they can just access this web app as if they were visiting any other website. The advantage is for you as the administrator, you got to see exactly who accessed your internal web service, from where, when, etc. You can make flexible policy rules. And so I believe this is a really good alternative for accessing your internal web services. Super easy to use. So I encourage you to give it a try. Start for free here. We have a fully free community edition that you can use to experiment with this and give it a try and let us know how it goes.